really want to play against it, and they will commit 2 marksman bans over to Savior as we roll into this B1 pick that could be Rumble or a jungler, it really feels like. Or I'm wrong.
Taliyah still there. I mean, maybe the Azir as well if either of these mids were really feeling it. I think that if we see the Taliyah get locked in, that incentivizes a Orianna from Doinb. Just that has been the classic go-to answer for Taliyah matchups in the mid lane. But again, with Azir open, I think that XQW, one of the LGD superstars really, he's done really well at farming and getting to a point of power on this Azir pick, and just a question of whether or not he can actually pilot it in that late game is something that we need to see answered. But the Taliyah, the most likely rational response, and then it is one of those junglers. Do you want the Pantheon, which is still completely unchecked in this series? It's in this game as well, is still available, and I think that would give you some really good options to try and play slightly longer lanes, to try and play slightly faster in the early stages of the game. Gets picked up by Naiyou, and then for LGD, you're looking at things like Trundle. Poppy still available as well if you want to try and answer. It's always a really good pairing with the Azir as well, this Poppy Azir duo, where you can build the wall and then shove people into it.
I'm glad you pointed out the Trundle though, because this is the reason I like the Ambessa pick here for Solokill even more. It's by not picking a tank top, you kind of deny Trundle a clear subjugate target is Climber. No, or Sasa. It's Sasa. It's Sasa. Yeah, going Udyr top here. This is a blast from the past meta-wise.
I would be heavily incentivized to say that this is Sasa going for a more AD Udyr style in that top side, where you can go for the Emax and really punish people, and really surprising damage comes out of this Udyr in the early stages, and honestly even into the mid to the late game as well. The Xin Zhao does get put down, and then that's an instant slam of Taliyah for Doinb. Knowing that the Xin Zhao trying to dash through the Unraveled Earth is really difficult, I do think that a good Poppy ban here could be very well pressed and really well served by NIP. I think that YTX, more than capable of trying to flex that down into the support role. Either way, they might just looking at taking some of those engaged champions off the board as well. If they want to remove things that are going to help them start the fights, because currently LGD don't necessarily have that. They've got a Xin Zhao maybe to start things. They've got Sasi who's going to run around and be a bit of a menace. But they don't have that engage button, that go, that is going to start off the skirmish.
With what NIP has put together so far, the Pantheon and the Ambessa markedly, LGD, we got to commit another Kai'Sa ban. Pay the LPL tax, if you will. I think Kai'Sa works really well with what Pantheon and Ambessa want to do. It's clear that NIP are going to try and, 1, play the map with their global ultimates in mid-jungle as best as they possibly can early, and then 2, any fights that come out, they are diving after XQW and whatever Savior is going to pick here. So I'd like to see a Kai'Sa ban come through from LGD in this last turn.
And I actually think as well that it's going to be really important for Savior to play a mobile AD carry down on that bot side. And with Corki and Lucian both taken off the board, honestly things like the Kai'Sa, like the Ezreal, do start to increase in priority for me as we move into Savior's pick for this draft. If he just steps even the fraction too far forward, that's Weaver's Wall, that's Grand Starfall coming down. If you don't have a dash or something to get you out over a wall to try and cheat that terrain, you are just going to struggle and you're never really going to be safe. You're never going to be able to farm in that mid lane with any real safety.
I would like Ezreal more on that turn, much more safer than I feel like the Kai'Sa can be. So they commit the Kai'Sa ban. I think they're going to set up Savior, if they are in line with your right thinking in my mind, Roodood, for the Ezreal pick here. NIP are going to do something we rarely see, and they're going to leave the AD up for R5. I think one of the most popular R5s right now on red side has always been support, but with no threat of the Sylas, they want to see what Leave can get here, knowing the LGD composition completed.
Okay, I mean, this Jhin is a bit of a takeaway as well. You talked about the fact that Kai'Sa is a really good dive AD. The adaptation that you've seen from teams, or that I've seen from teams as well, is that they will take the Jhin. He might not be able to dive with you, but he can provide support. And for NIP, this is now about what AD carry can go fishing, can go and find that aggression with the rest of the squad. We're seeing a couple of hovers here that do make sense. I really like the idea of Azeri. I don't mind the idea of a Neela-Alistair bot lane duo either, especially versus a Jhin. I think that's got a lot of control in the laning phase. The Zeri gets locked in for Leave, so this is now all about the Leave show. We've got Zeri. We know this champion can pop off. The OG pop-off AD carry, really, where we get these pentakills time and time again. And now, with Leave having those tools in his back pocket, it's going to have a difficult laning phase, I will say. I think that versus a Jhin, the Zeri definitely gets out-traded and can be bullied if Savior plays the game well. And we've already seen LGD actually punish NIP's bot lane in the 2 versus 2. But as we get later and later into the game, I'm looking at ways to kill this Zeri. Rakan going to be quite difficult to get on top of her. The Azir shuffle can be dashed. Xin Zhao, very short range. The Udyr can get kited out as well. It's going to require LGD to be very concise in their engages. It's also going to require Doinb and Niket to be AFK when they go for them.
I really want to highlight that Udyr matchup with Zeri, because I think once, the Lightning Strike gets cast, the move speed buff Zeri gets with the dash as well. Really glad you pointed out the kiting ability Zeri has into that Udyr specifically. Overall thoughts here for NIP's draft. This is where I think, and this is the suited draft for NIP, knowing their most successful playstyle. It's a more supplementary mid laner with the Taliyah from Doinb. Action coming through both Niket and Naiyou to start things off, and who's the damage? It's going to be both Solokill and Liu. This is the new NIP that I think is most threatening, not just for Group Nirvana teams, but looking even broader on, knowing NIP are locked into the play-ins already. They will be likely facing a Group Ascend team towards the bottom of the standings. To get there, though, they have a couple more series in front of them, and remarkably right now, Game 2, if they can sweep away LGD to move up to 7-1, right on the heels of EDG, and they're going to have their fans behind them to support them as we hit the Rift.
敌军还有30秒到达战场，碾碎他。
I fear that the LGD fans may be dwindling in the building. I do fear.
They may be. They may have unfortunately been in a little bit of a struggle bus. We saw at the bottom there that the AI bot through the early game, actually really favouring LGD as we hit that 20-minute marker. But the second this game gets to a late game situation, we all know the power that a Zeri can have. Once we hit those 4 or 5 item markers, eyes on Leave to make sure that he can be as prolific a carry as members of the talent team, myself included, hoped that he would be coming into split number 3. We've not yet seen it from him as much as I might have liked in important games. Has proven to be a little bit weaker than we might have liked. We think that for the time being, this is about staving off the early aggression that a Jhin can have in the laning phase. As we move through to the late stages of this game, that's when we can expect to see Leaves try to pop off.
So where do we focus for now? Could definitely go towards the junglers who will be matched in their clears, and that's always important, especially for both these skirmish-heavy junglers who don't need their ultimates to be super effective earlier on, maybe a bit more towards Naiyou. But if they're mirrored the entire time, anytime Climber pops up, you're going to see Naiyou come as well. Is like you called out, Niket gets over to level 2, but YCX able to dash back out to safety, so really want to see how Naiyou and Climber interact in this early phase.
Yeah, really smart positioning there, actually, from YCX as he uses the Grand Entrance to knock up Leave on his way out and space out the potential pulverize from Niket, just making sure that he keeps enough safety with his life, and with the Gleaming Quills he should be able to sustain himself back on up. I think you don't go for any of those really hard engages as Niket and Leave down on that bot side early on. You want to get chipped out, pokes away at, and really start to struggle down on that bot side. See Doran's start for Sasi. This has been a while since we've seen Udyr in the top side. It was a bit of the flavour of the month, probably split number 1 if memory serves correctly. But this is just one of those picks that will just kind of run around, be a nuisance, and attempt to zone. I think that especially when we're looking at champions like Taliyah, like Zeri, that are all skill shot focused, it can have some pretty good control if you can dance around and dodge all the spells. But equally, we're looking at a composition of NIP that's got enough single target CC that this Udyr could begin to struggle.
And you talked about the Udyr a bit earlier on, maybe some wishful thinking with that E-Max sort of AD Udyr. We see the grass come across. Does that signal Roodood that we're going to get that more traditional tank Udyr that we saw in Split 1 like we were talking about?
Yeah, we can already see 2 points in the ability as well, so nothing really, nothing new for the LPL stage is what I'll say.
New appearance. Scuttle Crab is a spear to the face as Climber is going to jump on top of the top side Scuttle. Naiyou a bit faster, the market point to make here on his clear. He'll take his reset a bit earlier on here as Leave is going to have a wait bounce back towards him, so no need to position too aggressively. It's Niket that's going to listen to position aggressively. Good dash for XCW because that flick back would have landed, and with Niket nearby, might have been a kill or at least a flash.
Yeah, I think early on getting that summon spell out of the Azir is certainly something to keep track of, especially as we are broaching our second clears of our junglers, working our way ever faster towards those level 6 markers. Naiyou then will be able to have a lot more control over where he can be on the map. Importantly for Climber, talked about this in game number 1, but the early power that these junglers can have. For Climber, once again, he's playing the Xin Zhao from level 3. You really can look to go crazy. As we see, LGD thought that they were going to try and get a base and leave, wanted to trade it. They're both sticking around, and I think that these sort of longer, slower laning phases, they really favour your Yuntal marksman. We're going to see Leave go back to base, and he's going to get a BF sword uncontested. That's one of those really tricky points of being AD carries in the current meta. If you fight early on, you go back to base after like a third wave crash or a third wave scrap, and all of a sudden you're basing, you've got a long sword, you've got elastic slingshot in your inventory, and then you're working even harder to try and get a BF sword recall.
I think the wave manipulation was what really was able to set Leave up for that. He set up such a great freeze. Stack up a wave that Savior on his reset would have lost a lot of creeps towards, so forcing him to stay in lane, and like you called out, now they have Mimic backs. Both ADs are going to reset virtually on the same time, as Leave is actually going to try and push one more wave out. YCX is going to have to stay to hold this, but that kind of ruins the entire plan that I was trying to point out there for those two ADs.
No, I mean, this is honestly really good for Savior because he's going to miss nothing here, and Leaf can't stand to try and force that under the turret. He needs to take his recall as well. And you'll see in the recall, look what he gets here. It's 55 gold, that's the BF sword. He even gets a dagger on top of it. So he's able to really feel like he's in a good spot. And I always remember this. This was sort of Season 4 League of Legends. We're going back 10, 11 years. Looking at AD carries, you would always look for 55. That's the magic number this is. Back when you would rush Infinity Edge, when BF Sword costed 1550 gold, we were always looking for the 55 number. That meant you get to go back to base and find a BF Sword. It's the exact same in this instance, coincidentally. A little bit of a blast down the past of memory lane as LGD are able to once again secure this crab on the top side. A lane swap has come through for NIP, and now XQW in trouble.
XQW, there's the flash out of that Azir. Like you pointed out, Rude, another great placed seismic shove from Doinb to force that one out. But with this lane swap, go ahead.
As well, but I'm enjoying this adaptation from Doinb. We saw earlier on that he tried to put the W first, and then you would catch them off guard with the E afterwards. Actually, Doinb's realised if I just put the Unraveled Earth down, XQW can't dash through it without getting hit by a micro stun, which secures the seismic shove. So he's adapted in that instance, but I will say, okay, flash forward.
And hey, the Weaver's Wall, just like that, Doinb's here, the Grand Starfall as well, out of nowhere. XQW is routed, surrounded on all sides by 3 members of NIP, and well, I knew they were going to punish the flash was Azir, but I wasn't ready for it to be that quick.
And this is why I highlighted that I'd like to see some semblance of mobility from whoever it is that sits mid lane, because you are not safe. You step past your turret, you can get collapsed on very, very easily, and it is going to give so much control over to NIP when they have those ultis available. Now, though, is when LGD have got a bit of time to shine.
Oh no, this is the reverse of game 1 almost. The ghost coming out. If you remember back to game 1, Savior dies in a 1v1 against Solokill.
It's understandable. Look at all the damage that Sasa's built out in his
Oh yeah, that's a great point, actually. Yeah. Thormail gives a ton of AD.
The base damage from the Udyr, and you get to see a little bit of why I think in the mid game this Udyr is going to be a massive threat. I worry about the late game stages where it can begin to get kited out. If we see a Rylai's come through from Doinb, if we see some sort of any real kite capability from lead, this Xin Zhao will struggle. So we'll keep our eyes on how well it looks to get through the laning phase, but especially with Ghost available to lead in the late game, this Udyr probably going to struggle quite significantly.
As we swap back our lanes, and Naiyou comes away with the dragon during that timer, and Niket is still making sure XQW is having a bad day on the Rift. I'm loving this from Niket, making it a priority to just punish this the real big scaling threat on LGD, right? As we talked about Leave having to be such a big burden in that task. It's XQW that's going to have to be the big answer in that aspect, and put it behind. Late game, it doesn't really have to be a reality, and that's nice when you're the team ahead within a more fed mid lane.
Well, we did see LGD with XQW Azir in their series loss up against LNG. Honestly, during that game number 2, it was XQW who looked like maybe the best piece of the LGD puzzle, so hopefully he can continue to do that while the rest of the team maybe builds up a little bit more comfort in their own capabilities. We are seeing as well that we're going to get to see a lot of plated steel caps coming through this game. Savior already with that cloth armor in inventory, recognizing Ambessa Pantheon and the Zeri, all of which can be quite difficult to sustain the damage of if I'm not able to get a little bit of armor in my kit.
Mid laner shifting up towards this top side. The Grubs all secured off screen by Climber though, so you do have that side lane threat, and I think that does bode well for this Udyr and Azir that can really chomp down at these waves quickly. But again, in this phase of the game, as we crest over 10 minutes, what NIP should really index on the most is trying to punish lousy side lanes. In a mere couple of seconds, XQW or even Sasa can have a Taliyah and a Pantheon up them along with whoever is matched up with them.
So you can take a really good trade here in the mid lane. That's not
good dash.
Yeah. Unfortunately, if Zeri ever has E up, I'm never ulting as Jhin. Nice to see that Saviour's going to use it to buy a bit of priority in the mid lane and clear out that wave. But even still, you know, uses the curtain call, gets a little bit of damage onto the AD carry for NIP, and makes it so that Leave at least can't contribute to anything that happens immediately in the game without having first taken recall. I think as well as you look through what it is that LGD wants to do this game, we highlighted that. Okay, never mind.
Here we go.
Bye.
That's exactly what we talked about. If you're a little too far up in your lane, bam! Pantheon on top of your noggin.
And, you know, we highlighted this for a reason. I said, you need to pick an AD carry who's got mobility. Savior in this instance, he had flash, but that's not going to save him, and he recognizes that and keeps it in his back pocket. He used the barrier for seemingly no reason, as now XQW flies in.
Getting a little dance on, Dream and Shuffle, flash away from the side of the shove, and boom! YCX is here with a charm and a knockup, but Niket has the heal to dissuade the ignite, and, well, he's going to try and set up Naiyou for stepping up on XQW, who is still flashless, by the way. Headbutt Pulverize soon to come up, but they're not going to dive under the turret, and nobody drops.
And then the flash from XQW there, just so that he can continue doing as much DPS as possible, dodge out on that seismic shove. Right idea, just not quite enough in the tank for the Azir, as Doinb able to barely sustain up, barely able to get out to safety, and actually give a little bit of time, a little bit of a window to his jungler to come in to bail him out. Summon a heal there from Niket as well, keeps the Taliyah alive. And we talked about that for NIP, they're a composition that can look for these global players, can look for this mid-game aggression. They found a couple of kills using it already. That Taliyah, the Pantheon, both of them have found those 2 kills that we see on the scoreboards right now. But for LGD, their composition's all about looking to try and find some skirmishes, trying to find some 5-man fights. So it doesn't matter if they overload one area of the map, we've just got enough tools already there to beat you.
That is what's piloting NIP here through this early phase. Not much to play for on the map by this point, but you can look to see that if you're NIP, it's fine playing a bit of a slow game, especially for your damage dealers by this point. You want to get the Seraph stun for Doinb, you want to get Leave a bit more time. This one item Zeri isn't too much of a threat. It's again trying to overload these sides and, well, not have your support try and contest a jungle steal on the Raptors, but this may set up for maybe a wrap, but Naiyou and Doinb not comfortable pulling the trigger just yet.
Yeah, looking at that situation, I'm thinking, who's caught here? Is Climber, YCX the ones that are trying to spring the trap, or is it going the other way around? Either way, for the time being, though, we sort of reset to this quite quiet stage of the game where actually waiting for LGD to make any sort of a move, seemingly not going to happen for a while. And I'm thinking that this dive onto Doinb, maybe their best bet, but again, Pantheon ulti going to be available. They'll be able to find some sort of reprieve if they want to look for that fight. Instead, they elect to back away, knowing that that's a choice, knowing that that's an option for the Ninjas. And again, just this passivity from LGD at a certain point, it's not going to be able to pay off. At a certain point, they're going to need to do something, or they're probably just going to have the game lost for them.
For now, it's going to be getting a lot of members topside, but I don't know if this dive really ever works with Niket protecting Doinb. And yeah, there goes the wave. And what have you really gained here? A loss of a dragon, because on the bot side, Naiyou says, all right, this is free now, and we can get on to that second Drake. Leave just has to be a bit careful as the ghost is popped by YCX, but Leave maybe a bit uncharacteristically, gets himself back to safety, and now the turn comes out next to W. The entire pack has left him, and that means the Predators can jump on top of him, looking to snatch up their prey, but XQW is making it a bit of a problem. Another cycle of spells will do it and ail it for Doinb to find the feats of warfare.
And just barely XQW not able to find the 1-for-1, but a very good effort, a very worthwhile try, as it's NIP who are able to once again spring the trap. This time it's not requiring both of the globals, and this time round XQW just barely able to die and not find that fight, find that 1-for-1. Again, it's good from NIP to be able to play on those limits, knowing what their capabilities are. We saw this in game number 1 with Solokill, where they're on the flip side, LGD were looking for that dive. Solokill went for a 1 versus 3, wasn't quite able to make it work. This time round, though, it's actually going to be NIP that spring the trap and that come out on top.
So now they got feats of warfare. They've got their kills spread out pretty nicely onto their 3 members sporting first items. The Sundered Sky gets done for Naiyou. They do actually end up trading that Drake back, so Climber grabs that one. Better set up for feats of monster slaying. But again, LGD, they have to be the proactive ones, and right now it feels like either one of these side lanes is a trap. Really, not just side lanes. Wherever Savior and XQW are, if they don't have, if Flash comes down for them, they are trapped. And Savior might have to burn his Flash right here as he gets headbutt pulverized into a stun. And oh, look at that caster timing, Roodood.
Yeah, now we've got this Herald spawn. Whether LGD are able to convincingly take this, we'll have to wait and see. They are down 1,000 gold. Doinb's basing, he's got teleport, and you can see NIP leave at the very least is posturing aggressively. He wants to get in this fight. Pops the ulti now.
Lightning Crash, curtain call. They're going all in for Leave, but the bullets aren't hitting their mark. And Sasi's going to flash top Leave. Climber as well. Everyone chasing Leave down, and they're going to find that kill. What did they give up on the back end of that? They lose control of that Herald, and Naiyou gets away with a heist of a century, also getting out with the actual Herald itself.
So double summoner spells burned off of the Zeri. Now that's going to be important in 3 minutes time when the dragon spawns. Flash used by Savior, flash used by Sasa, and flash used by Climber on the Xin Zhao as well, and XQW once again.
Yep, okay, good Emperor's Divide. Public Execution is down for solo kills. They couldn't go for that snap engage, but Niket is roaming. Gonna make this a 3 versus 2 double knockup, and hello, Dalia popping out of nowhere. It's the global presence NIP's comp brings in. Solokill picks up both of the kills.
And just a refusal to acknowledge that Talia has an ultimate ability. It's so infrequently used for combat that they just think it can't be used in its true purpose. Another instance of Doinb showing up and making a play happen. This is the, what, 4th Weaver's Wall now? Before level 16, where we actually get to see Doinb absolutely popping off. And I think XQW needs to invest in a pink ward just for this brush alone. It's been sprung the trap out of it at least twice in this game. And then Niket comes in, the wall comes down, and there's just no way out for the LGD top side. I mean, it's a little bit tricky. Maybe you're flashing a skill shot, maybe you can battle dance out to your teammate, but the auto attacks follow through, and Solokill finds himself too. He'd been struggling a little bit in that laning phase. It's worth saying that the Udyr counterpick did its job to keep the Ambessa at bay. But now the question is, what can it do in the later stages of this game? Because the Ambessa already showed up, found a couple of kills. I'm waiting to see what the Udyr is going to be able to do.
Deadly Flourish. Unbreakable Will is the answer. When it becomes lightning, fourth
Naiyou
shot isn't going to have enough. Does if you dodge it. Hey, he trusted his support to just dip, all right? I respect it.
Man, that I would be spam pinging like crazy if I was Niket right there. Like, I'm there, 40% HP. My Pantheon's just looking at me full HP, E ready. Like, yeah, bud, good luck. Get the fancy feet on. And unfortunately for Niket, he did.
Yeah, he did for now. But talking more about Solokill, because I think we were briefly cut off. The Udyr is still going to be, you know, hard for Ambessa to deal with. But again, the way NIP have drafted, right now we're seeing the Talia and mostly the Pantheon be used to threaten side lanes. But what they're going to serve a purpose for later on is to set up Solokill to publicly execute either XQW or Savior in the back line of this fight. Remember, NIP is pretty dive-driven, no matter if they're going for a pick play or a 5v5 team fight later on.
Yeah, you know what Jin doesn't do well against? It's dive.
No, really?
What doesn't he do well against? It's dive that can kill him very quickly. You know, like an Ornn, he can maybe crit and run away. Ambessa, you crit, try to run away, and the Ambessa just runs at the same speed and dashes up to you again. So
Oh boy.
It's pretty tricky. Oh
Wait.
no, oh no!
Was that TV out? Okay, save
Flash,
XW.
yeah.
All right, now I know who's getting spam pinged. In this game, it's definitely Niket who leaves, or YCX who left XW to die, and LGD are trying to engage 4 versus 4. The Breakable from Panth not going to block all that damage, and YCX doesn't even end up getting out. What is LGD doing right now?
需要充能。
You know, in a short word, Slayer, they're losing. And if we tried to explain much beyond that, we may begin to struggle. NIP, that we should praise them for their ability to capitalize on LGD making these plays. We won't define them, we'll just call them plays.
Okay.
As Solokill's able to take the tier 1 turret down on the bot side, the Dragon will be secured as well. And it's all going NIP's way. Again, a team that we are hoping will
I gotta
be
see this again.
Yeah, okay, let's have a look. Let's hold this. So, what is the time frame? Engage. YCX is looking topside already. You have fun, buddy. I'll see you later.
He's not even looking at the bottom lane right now.
No,
Oh,
and Solokill like walks into the brush, sees the Rakan, doesn't register that he's TPing, but it's like, oh, I need to leave because there's a Rakan here, and then sees the little bubble fly across his screen. He's like, oh, okay, goodbye.
Cool, 1v1.
Yeah.
A free 1v1 out of nowhere. And now Solokill 3-0 with this Mbessa. The gold has really just exploded by this point, and you can see the AI is definitely reflecting that NIP are in a much more comfortable spot. And where do they take that comfortability to next? It's topside. Roodood it's very hard to ever get close to an objective that Talia can just constantly throw down now, slowing ability for the allies completed.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, especially versus the Judia. I think Xin Zhao in general is also always going to struggle versus Talia, but Talia with her allies definitely feels a little bit worse, as constantly getting hurtled at rocks that slow you is going to feel pretty darn bad. Both our mid laners clearing away this top wave. Want to look at the power of the map right now. We see Solokill working his way through that tier 2 turret down on the bot side, trying to observe us for making our way down here. We can see that this is free time for the Ambessa, who still has teleport. So any time that she gets unchecked is time that LGD need to be making a play on the top side, and unfortunately they just weren't doing that. They spent their time trying to posture around the Atacon, didn't ever get a good look at it. Just want that Solokill got some free time, an unanswered wave, and means that at the time we were thinking LGD, you know, they're going to struggle to try and find a 5 versus 5. Looks like they're even struggling to find the 5 versus 4s as well.
I just want to highlight not just the item discrepancy, but more important, the power of the items reflected between these two competitions, right? XQW in the mid lane, he's not on 2 items by this point, and the Nashers doesn't bring a lot to the table. This is a famine Jhin build with the Collector, mostly the rapid fire cannon. There's not enough damage out of this Jhin by this point. It's more setup. The Xin Zhao is really the best positioned on 2 items to be effective now. And when you look on the flip side for NIP, there's a lot more champions with much more effective 2-item spikes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Zeri probably in one of her weaker stages of the game, I'll be honest, but we're looking at the Talia, you're looking at the Ambessa and the Pantheon as well. There's more than enough damage to go around, and again, with the way that LGD have been playing this, they've been so focused on keeping Leave down that I can very easily see a world where the NIP side are able to leverage the carry, Doinb, Naiyou, and Solokill, all able to run away with these team fights. Definitely very scared for LGD, not necessarily a lot of tools that they can find.
They swept it this time, Roodood. They swept that,
They
treacherous brush.
XQW's had flashbacks, he's got PTSD, knows that he could very well be in trouble. But again, Atacon starting up here by NIP, or at least posturing for it, as Naiyou's just sat here tossing spears at XQW to see what sticks. Which honestly is low-key based.
Oh, yep. There's the Weaver's Wall, and it's only YCX, but he's going to turn and re-engage onto Niket, who gets a ton of CC down, but the Rakan is a lot less tanky than that Ornn with Unbreakable Will. Naiyou actually protecting him, is able to walk away from the 4th shot.
Not this time, says Naiyou. I'll help you out here. And they do defend their tier 1 turret in exchange for their Rakan's life. You do actually get to see a little bit of why people take the Alistar into the Rakan, or why hard CC is so good into the Rakan. YCX this whole time is spamming his E, but he's just knocked up, flicked back, CC'd by Pantheon, CC'd by Alistar. There's everything and the kitchen sink being thrown at the Rakan, and if he can never use any spells, he can't battle dance back out to safety. And the power of the Alistar there really showing it and giving its worth. As it looked like Niket was the one caught out under the turret, but he pops Unbreakable Will to free himself of the CC and then instantly able to find a knockback.
Sasa not going to be fine because guess what? Again, all of the ninjas pop out of the shadows and make a 2v1, a 4v1, just like that. We'll see maybe now if NIP feel comfortable turning on to the Otacon. They do have a dragon spawning bot side in about 30 seconds, and they're just going to be happy with getting the last tier 1 turret off the board.
Yeah, the thing is, there's no way that LGD can ever take this Otacon, so NIP don't need to potentially flip the game by throwing at said neutral objective. The dragon is much lower stakes if they can find a way to get there in time. But I'm looking at teleports.
Oh, there's a new brush.
LGD.
Roodood, there's a new brush.
XQW,
it's the furthest one back. It's happening again. The nightmare continues for XQW. Oh, the exhaust, I think, is going to ruin it. That was nearly a great outplay. He falls again. 0-5, and NIP are really the ones to blame for that scoreline.
Yeah, the sad thing is, oh, hold on, they found Niket.
Niket, Unbreakable Will is broken. Nice crit shot, curtain call opening up here from Savior. Naiyou's got to flash around some of these bullets, but he gets slowed charmed, and there's a second one. Solokill is TP'd in. Can he get on top of these carries? They have to get towards Savior, as the Octagon is getting assist of the year. But the Poly usually comes across from Solokill, gets on top with 3 members to flick back onto Climber, but Solokill goes after YCX, gets the first kill. Leave has the Ghost popped along with the Lightning Crash, trying to get the Lethal Temple stacked up as they sacrifice Solokill.
4 seconds.
Trying to wait for it to come up. There it is. Now he gets over the wall. Leave is going after all of LGD, and he's making it their problem. Boom goes the dynamite. NIP Leave has arrived to the game, folks.
And he was just biding his time, Slayer, waiting for that ulti to come back up, waiting to be able to destroy LGD. The second that ulti comes available, he hops over the wall, pops in the face of Savior, who gets 3-tapped under the might of this Infinity Edge Zeri now. Walking out of base, 3 items strong and absolutely monstrous in this second game. We highlighted it in the draft. Zeri R5 for Leave is exactly what you need to take a game. An Unbreakable Will comes through just a little too late here from Niket. He does get popped by Savior. And it's really good play by LGD to try and find these couple of picks, with 4-shot coming through on the ulti on the time that YCX lands that CC. But unfortunately, Savior knows he has to run so that he's got an angle to try and dodge the Ambessa ulti. If he just stands and auto-attacks Solokill there, he's going to struggle, and you can see the power that this Jhin doesn't have. He gets kited out, he tries to walk up to auto-attack and immediately has to burn barrier, and then Leave. He's already a level up over Savior, he tags him with a slow, he's able to flash in to seal the deal as well. And then caught between a rock and a hard place, you've got Doinb one side, Leave on the other. It's a pretty dangerous duo.
So now we talked about, 2-item Doinb's big, 2-item Solokill is in a pretty good spot. But you mentioned from draft, the crown jewel of this comp is Leave. The IE's done, and LGD are, again, I think too slow early to have gotten to this point and ever survive. It's Leave. He does have both his summoners burned by this point, so maybe he can try and punish there. But with how much threat NIP are going to have onto the backline, onto Azir, onto this immobile Jhin constantly, who is really going to be able to comfortably get close enough to threaten the Zeri? Sasa?
Yeah, that's the other question. Well, I mean, threaten the Zeri is one thing, kill the Zeri is a complete other thing. I dare say that Sasa will be able to auto-attack Leave. Will he be able to kill Leave? Absolutely not. I think at this stage we memed early on. We did meme earlier on at all the damage that the Udyr was building. He's built more damage in the same vein as he had earlier on in the game. And I think that at this stage, though, quite likely that Leave will be able to stay the course and manage.
Oh, Weaver's Wall cuts Savior off, but also cuts XQW off as he falls for a 6th straight time. And now the rest of LGD are scattered, trying to backpedal desperately away from the rolling choo-choo train that is NIP. Gets a little bit slowed off the tracks by Solokill missing the public execution, but the grand starfall cuts off all escape angles. Climber, can you survive long enough? As Naiyou actually does not ward over the wall. I thought he was going to ward and stun, and Climber gets out. We now flash mid lane where YCX is just protecting Savior, but with nobody dropping for NIP, even though they don't kill off Climber, why not turn your attention towards the big purple worm?
Yeah, and with the Zeri to boot, it's going to go down very, very fast as there are teleports available for XQW when he respawns in 10 seconds.
Climber, you shall not pass. Crescent Guard sure to block some damage. No way to get the crit shot onto the Baron secured, and now Niket gets another two-man headbutt and a pulverizing blow onto Climber. 2 more kills gobbled up, and Leave nearly hunting down the last pair left up. Still, win after win for Ninjas in Pyjamas.
Definitely felt like Leave was going to try and go nuclear onto the backline of LGD there. Holds his tongue, buys a little bit of restraint, and NIP here in a very firm position. 10,000 gold once all said and done. 9,000, but they're able to go back to base, spend all that gold, and make sure that they are as far ahead as possible. At this stage in the game, there is no bad engage, as XQW maybe again just not quite looking at his screen. Not sure that there's a Taliyah wall coming across. You'd like to think that he would never walk over that if he'd seen it. Just looking for a bit of poke onto Leave, ends up paying for it with his life. But unfortunately, XQW is a very strong part of this LGD composition, and with him dying super early on, it just means that there's never a contest to be had. I want to take a look at the level differences between these carries as well, Slayer. Doinb level 18 versus XQW's level 15.
Oh, it hurts. Leave
level 17 versus Savior's level 15 as well.
Alright, Solokill is going to have to flash away from Savior. So, for now, LGD have kind of disassembled the 4-1. Now they're snap engaging onto Leave. His flash comes back, but Sasi's looking over the wall. Problem is, like we talked about, how can the rest of LGD even get close enough to get this kill onto Leave? It's just Sasa and YCX throwing himself to the wind, but now he becomes the wind as he's turned into dust, and the rest of LGD are looking like mincemeat as Leave turns his gun right onto LGD, and XQW just gets stunned, trying to dash in to save the game. Ace over NIP, dominating win once again as they'll move to 7-1 and keep EDG on their heels.
2-0 for NIP, a triple kill for Leave, and the Baron at their backs is going to signal the end of this game.
What a top two we have culminated here in Group Nirvana. EDG and NIP now, with this commanding win over LGD, definitely have to be on the radar of the bottom of Group Ascend.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that NIP are taking 2-0s here up against theoretically our third-placed team in LGD, you know, it separates that pack, it makes it competitive, and really pushes NIP to be one of those teams that can contest with our Group Ascend nominees. It puts the pressure on WE, puts the pressure on FPX. They need to step up their game, they need to make sure that they're on top form as well. If they're not, you know, this is an NIP composition of players, a composition of teams that could very easily take a play-in series, could try to challenge with the best, and maybe, just maybe, have themselves a very good run at that playoff bracket.
We talked about it from the draft, once it was completed, Roodood, that this feels like the most NIP-esque draft you can get. Carry for Solokill, hyper carry scaler for Leave, and a lot of playmaking between Doinb and the two new guys on the block.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like when NIP draft for their strategy and execute towards that.
I think it's really important to highlight how well it was executed, and I came into this series saying that Doinb is one of their big ticket players still, and I think that this game, whilst he may not have put out the numbers, he put out the map pressure to kind of do a quintessential Doinb performance in this second game. Taliyah walls, every single chance he got, was just constantly looking for fights, and even in that final skirmish at the end, he's just throwing a wall up for fun, just to separate and try and create a little bit more space for NIP. Maybe a little bit of creative license with how he used it, and just making sure that it was thrown in there for good measure. But through the early game, through the mid game, he was everywhere. He was doing exactly what he needed to do, and made the impression onto LGD that they could not step into this game, into this series at all.
Doinb's numbers may not be, you know, super outrageous, but look at the scoreline of his mid counterpart. You're not going to see it in the post game, but rarely do you see anyone in the LPL. I'm not even talking about the deaths here, Roodood. I'm going to talk about the other zeros. There was 0 kill participation for XQW, and that's because of what Doinb was creating with those Weaver's Walls, and Naiyou also doing a perfect job, just always making sure if there was a Weaver's Wall, there was likely a Grand Starfall.
Yes, and importantly as well, you know, we can talk about for XQW that this was, you know, maybe a bit of a weaker game for him, and there's an element of, well, that's a pretty difficult composition to play against in the Taliyah in the Pantheon, but there's also an element of, this is the best league of Chinese League of Legends that we can look for, right? Or the second if we're splitting Ascend and Nirvana, that unfortunately at this high level you need to be able to separate and to think about how you're going to die. You need to be cognizant of those globals, and you need to be thinking there could be a Pantheon, there could be a Taliyah. I can't step into this wave.
And that was just disrespected at multiple points in this game. Not just by XUW, by the way. We'll see back on the highlights here, but part of it can go back to draft again, too. The Jhin, it worked in theory with the range advantage that LGD wanted, but you had to respect your opponents and recognize that no lane you're in is safe unless you got cover, and, well, 2 players on LGD did not understand that rule.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, we were looking at what would have been saving the draft. I think that, honestly, Savior in this game had as good a game as you can hope for on the Jhin, especially when you're playing up against such heavy dive and such difficult composition for you specifically to play against. And you can see there in the damage, you know, we were highlighting that Doinb maybe not having the 1v9 performance, but actually looking at the damage, doing more than his fair share.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he might have just earned himself player of the game. I think actually player of the game is an interesting conversation, Roodood, in this game, mainly because when you see such dominating wins, you can go for the cop-out that I like to lean on a lot of the time, which is, I really feel like this player of the game is a team award. I'm not going to use that this time. I actually think it might be warranted. What do you think about a Niket player of the game conversation here? You know, I'm just saying.
I don't know that I can fully justify that when the majority of the mid-game plays were Doinb Naiyou, where it was largely the mid-jungle duo. This is a decided not highlight. Yeah, that'll be played again and again. You know, we get assigned to go and find clips for these shows. We need that one every single LGD series.
Yeah, Roodood, we also are tasked with finding clips for our awesome sponsor, ProDiff, to get the great analysis minds on it. I think it'd be funny to show them that clip and ask for analysis, because we might have some very intriguing reactions.
Some different answers to how good was this? How can I begin to play my solo queue quite like this? But for, you know, what LGD can look to in the future, hey, they've got probably a really difficult series versus EDG, but also they've got a couple of must-win games. I think that at this stage, they lost a series to LNG. That was not expected. They've now lost a series to NIP, which arguably would have been expected, but they've separated now. This gives NIP a top 2 berth, just regardless. They are going to be top 2, and importantly, we want to take a look at and really think about whether LGD are even going to be able to be in the play-ins. They're still in a good spot for it. They are still 3 wins in, but there's a world where if they, you know, take a loss here, maybe lose against Ultra Prime, and the EDG series, we're expecting another loss from them there, we could have seen all of LNG or LGD's wins.
You know, I think this is a good thing for LGD, though, talking about their future. They, Roodood, do not play for another 8 days, actually. They are done in week 5. They are off until, I guess for all of us, even me, even though I'm in the earliest hours of the next day, they play on the 20th of August. So a lot of time to go back and workshop how to make sure they're locked into hopefully the 3rd spot out of Group Nirvana, which, again, like you talked about, is still kind of not fun, because it's the difference between taking on FPX or WE right now or a Weibo or a JDG.
Yeah, that's like the disparity there, definitely quite palpable. So you definitely want to be 1st, 2nd as opposed to 3rd, 4th. Unfortunately, that's not looking likely for LGD, and I think that at this stage is borderline impossible, in fact. So we already pretty much have our top 2 if looking at the standings and the quick math ends up working out. But for NIP, you know, they are in that top 2 now, and I think that it's going to be a case of just staying consistent, giving us reasons to think that they may be able to make it to playoffs. We know that they're making it to play-ins, but make it to playoffs in particular. And then the question of what kind of run are they making.
Who made a mad dash for the MVP, though? Ha-ha! All right! right, LPL voters. Listen, I've never flamed the LPL voters.
Never
for
once.
picks. I definitely, never once. I always am aligned with them and agree with their decisions, so good for them to reward myself with a Niket pick. I'm with you though, Roodood. I think I am going to use the cop-out. I think about 3 members in this game could have earned player of the game. You could have given it to Niket, Doinb, or Naiyou. And that's just how big of a win NIP had in Game 2 to lock up this series.
Absolutely, and I think that for Niket to get his first of the season as well, it definitely feels really good for him. Again, one of the newer players on this NIP roster. Good to see that he's able to flourish here in game number 2 and get this Alistair pick really off to the races.
NIP, the race is almost over by this point. As you heard Roodood talk about, they are locked in to top 2 by this point. They've completed the marathon to get to that record, and now it's the mad sprint against EDG to see if they can claim the top spot. But that is for future conversations. In the now, we transition over to Group Ascent, where you think the gameplay is going to get better. You know, the momentum for the teams is going to get a lot better, but we are going to be talking about bottom of the barrel in the standings, WE, and a Weibo team that our talent squad is really yet to figure out. We're going to try and figure it out for you guys, though, after this break, as our Group Ascent series is next up.